Welcome back, everyone, to NeuroAlchemy, where science meets soul and where healing becomes multidimensional, intuitive, and profoundly possible. I'm Dr. Sarah Young. On NeuroAlchemy, we define every term as if you're hearing it for the very first time, because clarity creates safety, and safety opens the door to deeper healing opportunities. This podcast is a space where we slow things down, honor the nervous system, and explore healing in a way that respects both the brain and the spirit, the research and the mystery. A gentle note before we begin: some of our conversations touch on trauma, emotional healing, and nervous system experiences. Please feel free to listen in a way that feels supportive, grounding, and safe for your body. Today, I am so excited to introduce a Michigan spotlight, Jessica Hollister, an energy-based practitioner out of Midland, Michigan, whose work sits at the intersection of emotional energetics, nervous system healing, and spiritual transformation. After years of trauma, loss, and living in survival mode, Jessica's healing deepened and accelerated when she discovered silent counseling, a modality that helped her release long-held emotional patterns and reconnect with her body's wisdom and faith. And today, she guides others through layered, trauma-aware healing journeys that honor pacing, nervous system safety, and the sacred intelligence of the body. We'll be exploring what it truly looks like to move from constant chaos into grounded alignment, and how energy-based work can complement, not replace, traditional therapeutic care. Jessica, before we begin, I always like to begin with a gentle check-in. How are you arriving today, either physically, emotionally, or energetically, as you come into this conversation?
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarah. I appreciate the wonderful, warm introduction. And I am showing up today refreshed, renewed, and just really excited to be a part of your show and be able to interact and talk with you and share some energy together and for everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Before we go deeper into your story, I'd love to ground a few core concepts that we'll be returning to throughout the episode today. We do this intentionally so listeners can stay oriented and regulated as they listen with us. When we talk about survival mode, what does that feel like in the body and in the nervous system? And how is it different from true regulation?
That is a wonderful question. Thank you, Dr. Sarah. Yes, and I appreciate you having me. So thank you. I would have to say, living in survival mode, I didn't realize I had been living in survival mode all my life until I would say probably about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, actually. And I am a tender heart, Sarah, Dr. Sarah. So forgive me if sometimes I might get a little emotional, but I just feel that means it's my body's way of cleansing and releasing what needs to be released. Living in survival mode, gosh, that was constantly looking out windows. Fear, I was living out of fear. I was always worried about what was going to happen to my daughter, what was going to happen to me, what was going to happen to my loved ones, my friends. Oh my gosh, did I say something right or wrong? Or why did this person look at me like that? What did I do wrong? I was constantly internalizing and overthinking and feeling guilty, shame, feel like I did something wrong when my heart was always pure. I just wanted to connect with people and help others because of everybody that had been placed in my path. That God, I'm a believer in God, Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. But I do not force my beliefs onto anybody. But for me, God has always gotten me through everything. And I just really, my intention was always to help others if they knew what I had been through in my lifetime. And I was able to keep making progression little bits at a time. And God was placing the right people in my path to help me on my healing journey, that they could also get out of that negative loop, that negative pattern, because that's what was happening. Is there were all the same repeating relational patterns kept showing up in personal and professional life. And I thought, what is going on? And finally, after the sudden loss of my father back in 2022, that was a very pivotal moment in uh, telling me, it was like God was saying, wake up, Jessica. There's so much more to life. And you are here to help others, but you have to make some big changes in your life. And that was so profound for me. Signs and synchronicities started showing up left and right. Animals, angel numbers, songs, people, strangers. Strangers would say things that I had just got done either talking about with somebody or that had popped into my mind. And then when I ran in, maybe 5-10 minutes later, I ran into a complete stranger and they said almost word for word what I had been thinking about. But that, that feeling, I was like, okay, I want more of this. This is great. Let's do this. Then the healing, fast forward into the healing. Now I know, looking back, that the changing perspectives, a mind shift, has been the big difference for me. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. For someone new to this language, how do you describe emotional energetics in a grounded, accessible way?
Certainly. If for someone who is new to emotional energetics, I would have to explain it. I'll reference back to what I kind of mentioned in the beginning was angel numbers, but I might not say angel numbers right away, because if they're new to the energetics field, it might mean they're also new to exploring their spirituality, or perhaps because there's so much of that is a huge component of our healing journeys and the work that we do. And I don't want folks to think that this is a religious thing. It's not. No, it is a connection with whoever you call your higher source, universe. For me, it's God. Others say universe, source, higher self, whomever, whatever term you use or whatever term folks choose to use. As long as it's guiding us in the right direction for love, light, and healing, call upon them, lean into them. They want us to lean into them. So when it comes to being new to this world of energy, I talk about intuition, that gut feeling. When you just walk into a room or you're walking down the street and something tells you this doesn't feel right. You cross the street and then lo and behold, something happens just down. That is energetics. That is being in alignment with yourself, and signs and synchronicities as well. Numbers. If numbers keep coming up, that's energy, right? That's a symbol. To me, that's a sign that you go and research that number. What does that mean? And that'll help get you on the right path.
Can you describe what silent counseling is and how it might be different from talk-based approaches to healing?
Absolutely. Silent counseling is a fairly nonverbal, and I say fairly because I'll explain that in a minute too, but it's a fairly nonverbal way of being able to energetically release those deep-seated emotional blockages and the emotions that we've been conditioned to feel and believe from our experiences, from our lived experiences, from generational traumas and experiences that have been passed down to us, right? All the stories that we hear about, oh, this happened to grandma, or this happened to grandpa, or this happened to my mom and dad. And I find myself living in the same situation, and I just don't understand. I told myself I was never going to do this. So there's the generational component in there. But the silent counseling, to bring it back to silent counseling, it helps us break those limiting beliefs, the fear, the doubt. If someone, for example, if me sitting here talking with you today, that has been a dream of mine, is to be able to share part of my story with the world. A year ago, I would have been, yes, yes, yes. And then when I might go to schedule that with you, right? And then I would back out because I would have what we call cold feet. And what that boils down to is the fear, doubt, feelings of unworthiness. So silent counseling is every meridian point. We focus on meridian points. And every point is connected to a body organ, an organ in our bodies. And those are also associated with emotions, fear, anger, grief, sorrow, unworthiness, doubt, trauma. So by gently pressing on these meridian points, our body will bring up the emotions. And it shows up in different forms for people. Some folks, they actually feel, tears. For me, it was tears and no matter what I pressed, I was like an overflowing bucket of tears just coming out. But some have experienced anger, frustration, irritation, while others, they see colors or they see images, they hear stuff, or they smell things, or, they have different sentience that are activated. So I tell folks to, however is showing up, no matter how crazy it sounds or looks, that is your divine spirit team, your divine team working with you and showing you what needs to be released. So in essence, I'm just a facilitator. I'm just a conduit. You would be doing the healing yourself with your divine spirit team. And that's what they want. They want us to lean into them for guidance, for divine, but we have to ask them. They will not just drop in and do it for us. We have to want to do it and we have to invite them in. So then after that, after we do the release with the breath work, as we're pressing on those meridian points, we do the breath work, we raise that intensity of the emotions, bring that up. However, anger, if it's anger, bring it up, let it bubble, bubble, bubble. And then when it gets to the tippy top, that's when we begin the breath work to release it, to be transmuted into love, light, and healing. And then after we're done going through all the areas that your body has shared that it's ready to release, and I use those words intentionally, when your body tells you what you're ready to release, then we follow up with the positive affirmations and pull you back up with all the good stuff.
When we say emotions are stored in the body, what are we really describing from your perspective?
From my perspective, we're talking about frustration. We're talking about stress, anxiety. We're talking about you're at work, your boss throws 5 projects at you, and they're all due yesterday. And then you have the school calling because your little one is running a fever. So you have to stop everything. You've got to take some time off of work, which these projects are piling up at work, but you take off to go take care of your child. But then you get a phone call from your boss. Where are you? I need you here. That stress, build up, that bubble, bubble, bubble. Then it comes time for dinner after you're home from being at the doctor for 2 hours waiting, which needs to happen. You're happy to do it because we have to take care of our children and ourselves, right? So then we get home, we're cooking dinner, and then another bombshell drops on us. And then all of a sudden, next thing we know, we're at the stove cooking dinner and the tears are just flowing. Or we're crying, or we're pouring ourselves a glass of wine, or we're going and we're calling our best friend or our family, our sister or our brother or whomever we are confidant, or we're consoling with our partner. Venting sessions. That's what that looks like. And I'm sorry, it's Sarah. Could you bring that back around for me? Repeat the last part of that question, please.
Yeah, we were just talking about, describing from your perspective what we mean when we say we're storing our emotions in the body.
Thank you. It just basically means that we're bottling up those emotions and we're not letting them out. If something is weighing on our hearts and our minds, we're just pushing it down because either A, we don't want to burden other people with it, or B, we're trying to change our perspective and not put that negativity out there. But it really is a signal that we need to bring that up and out to release it in a healthy way, without the wine, without all in moderation, right?
You use the word stillness in a sacred way. What does sacred stillness mean to you in the context of healing?
Sacred stillness to me in the context of healing means going inward, deep diving, doing a lot of self-reflection, dissecting what really matters to you. If you're truly happy with the way your life is going, and it's really learning about yourself, and it's taking that time. It's almost like a moment of, this is not my phrase, so I am taking it. This has come from other content creators and other trainers and coaches and mentors. So this is not my phrase, but taking a moment of pause. That's what divine sacred space means for me in healing, is going inward and taking that time to connect and listen to what my next steps are. What are the next steps to this healing journey? Or what do I need to do next for the greater good of all beings and things, not just for myself, but for the greater good of all, right?
Yes, my spiritual teacher always says for the highest good of all concerned. So that
Love
covers all the things, right? It covers everyone and everything. You've shared that years of trauma, loss, and constant survival eventually led you into silent counseling. What did life feel like before this work, and what began to shift when you first experienced it?
Before I began really deep diving with silent counseling, I was scared. I didn't, but I wouldn't have called it that. I wouldn't have said that. I was scared at what my life had become when I was alone, when I wasn't out being the mom, or when I wasn't out being the wife, because I was I'm now divorced. I'm since divorced, but I was also, when you're out and about with other people, you're helping other people, or you're interacting with others, it's almost like, I don't want to, maybe, well, I guess a mini vacation, because you're kind of taking the spotlight off of yourself and your problems, because we're focused, and I was focused on everybody else. But then when I was at home, I couldn't look at myself. I had become embarrassed, ashamed. I was at an all-time high. I had gained so much weight. I was at an all-time high of 210 pounds, and I was just ready to have my next drink with dinner, my next glass of wine with dinner, just to relax and regroup. So I'll be honest with you, Sarah. My life was just filled with heartache and heartbreak, loss and trauma. I realized that the trauma that I had endured as a child and into my adulthood had been a great part of that. But once that, it was almost like an aha moment came to me, which was God and my divine spiritual team. And I really started listening to them, because I was asking, like, I need help. I want to stop drinking all the time, because I was borderline alcoholic. I didn't go to AA, but I was so close. I was very close to finding a local AA group to join. And I just heard how you've been dealing with things. How's that looking for you now, right now, Jess? Where'd that get you? I was like, I don't know. Like, what do you got to lose? You're right. So it's like literally the whole Jesus take the wheel. I was like, I'm done. I want to stop drinking. I want to stop I felt so angry inside. I was angry. I was envious. I was, all of those things. And I just wanted to help people. And I'm like, I don't understand why people don't want my help, or or they would take my help. But, it ended up being this whole ordeal, right? And there were all these emotions, what I consider low vibrational, stagnant energy emotions, that would come up and bubble up. And then once I started healing, I had been through traditional therapy off and on since my teenage years. And the silent counseling, after one session, I was actually able to go out in public for the first time in 40 some years without feeling guilt, shame, or embarrassed, even where I was in my weight. And that was huge for me. And I was hooked. And then I'd still continued on with traditional therapy, which I'm a supporter of as well. But I really started to see big shifts and changes once I learned silent counseling and became certified. I started doing it on myself. So I give myself silent counseling sessions. So confidence boost. I'm not as stressed out. My relationship with my daughter has improved immensely. I have gone from a helicopter mom and don't do this, say this, don't do that. I went from being a helicopter mom to being, how does this feel for you, Tommy? What can I do? My daughter's name, sorry. But how can I support my daughter? And really, because I didn't want her growing up feeling like there was something wrong with her because of me taking my frustrations and her seeing all the turmoil that I was living in. So the silent counseling has really brought us closer together, more peace. I have peace. I found peace, and it's possible. Clarity, knowing like, okay, this is happening for me, not to me. So what's the solution that we can work towards, and how can we make it? So it's just also a positive mind shift.
You've shared that this work reconnected you to your body's wisdom, deepened your faith, and reshaped how you approach healing. When you're working with clients, how do you see the nervous system, energy, and spirituality interacting from moment to moment?
I would have to say, reference some clients who come to me who have been referred to me. They just heard, Jessica, I don't know a lot about silent counseling, but I heard that I have to have a session with you. So so-and-so said that I needed to come and meet with you. I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. And I, got through the explanation real quick. Well, it's not real quick, as you can tell. I'm a talker. I would have to say, when in those instances, I can sense and feel, because I am also an empath, I can sense the hesitancy and curiosity at the same time. And so when they come to me, it's not that they don't believe, it's that they're not sure of what to expect. So there's that hesitancy, that unsureness. And then once we start processing through the meditation, I sense their body almost, it's like their shoulders start up here when they first with me. This is an exaggeration. And then their shoulders up to their ears. And then they just start to relax and calm and become more centered and connected with themselves through the meditations, grounding them. So to be able to see them, that is that physical transition from when we first started the call to now relaxation. And then we do the breath work. And by the end of the session, they feel more grounded, clear, and relaxed and peaceful. It's very rewarding and very amazing to see and to go through that journey with them.
What a gift. What does it look like when faith becomes a source of safety rather than pressure or performance?
I love that question, Dr. Sarah. Thank you. Yes. It's beautiful. It's magical. It is so magical. It is a beautiful gift. I'm really grateful to have that blessing and that gift to connect with God and my divine spirit team, because even in troubled waters, even when my life looks like in total shambles, I still have that inner calm, faith, and belief that I know God will give me and provide for me and my daughter what we need when we need it. So that unwavering faith, peace, and calmness, that's what it's like.
Can you describe what changes when a person starts listening to their nervous system instead of trying to force themselves to heal?
Ease and flow. And I love that you brought that up. So thank you, because when we try to force ourselves and our body to heal, and like I made this appointment. So the old way of thinking, I made this appointment. I'm going to do this, and um, I'm not going to cancel because that's not who I am. I'm a by the book. I made this appointment. We're going to follow through. We're going to get it done. And I need to get this healed and behind me so I can go forward. Right? Yes. Beautiful. Love it. Yeah. Great. How's that working for you? Because when we start working together and I can sense and physically see that their body is stressed, they're tense. And then when we try to get them in flow with just, even after meditation, if they're still I can sense a bit of disease, a bit of they're uncomfortable, which is understandable. No judgment. It's a judgment-free zone. At the same time, this is something that I am very familiar with, and I'm in tune with energy, and I can sense that this is not, your body's not comfortable for whatever reason, and it's not ready. So we can get them into, what I've been able to do is get them in flow just enough to find out whether, like, I will check in with their body and use muscle testing and check in to see, are you ready? Is your body ready to release this? And I had a session. I had a wonderful, a beautiful soul come to me. She was in tears. She was ready to release all of this. She was going through some really heartbreaking times. And when we got there, her body she was looking at me and saying yes, yes, yes to everything. But her body was saying, no, 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 I'm not ready. And then when we checked in, we got her to go just enough with the sway technique. And then when I asked, am I ready to release this today? Her body said no. Do I feel safe to release this today? Because that's another thing is I walk them through the verbally. Am I safe to release this today? Her body went backward. Now in my sessions, if your body says no, it's not safe to do something, I'm not going to force it, because that will take you back, and that can put you down a downward spiral. So I said, does it feel good just to do a meditation? Yes. So we did a meditation. We talked a little bit. And then by the time we were done with that set, it ended up being about an hour long, hour and a half talk with her. And while we never got to the silent counseling portion, we did the meditation and we talked. And I listened to her. And then by the time we closed out, we checked in with her body and she was responding in a positive way. But we didn't push it because she wasn't ready. And then we waited a couple, 2-3 weeks later, and she scheduled, and now she was comfortable. Our energies were in alignment. Her body was ready. She had been doing some other self-healing as well, in that meantime, little bits at a time, because that was another thing, is just do little things to help ease your body into the healing, to calm that nervous system. Because when we've gone from being closed off and living in survival mode for so long, when we start getting the green light signals you're safe, we're safe, we can heal, we can relax and open up, our body is still kind of given that, wait, I don't know, I hear you, but I hear you, but we're still protecting you. So they have to take little steps to allow their own bodies to open when they're ready.
Healing is rarely linear. From your perspective, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people carry about their healing journey, especially when energy or spiritual work is involved?
I would have to say some misconceptions is that They see how other people who have healed, how their life is progressing or what's happening in their life or what happened in their healing journey, that it's going to happen to them. And that is not the case. I would have to say that for some people, end relationships and end certain, marriages. For me, I was divorced. And I feel like part of a misconception is that if a couple is going through a hard time, if one of them starts healing, a misconception is that they're automatically going to get divorced. And that's not the case, not at all. Couples can heal together. People can heal and grow and mend together when they're both ready, right? Also, I would have to say is that they think that it's a one and done thing. I had one session, I'm good, I don't need to do this again. That's it. There's so many layers to our healing. And so we've got the cliche about the onion, which is true. I love that theory, right? But I'm going to kind of shift it a little bit to like we're a flower. And in the springtime, when we're starting to bud, we're all closed up and we're all protected from the elements. But then as it warms up and we're watered, we're fed, and we're warm, we feel safe. When the heat comes on, the sun shines on us, and we start to open up, well, that's like our healing journey. It's like it takes time. We have to go in little phases as we open up. And then the petals, as they start falling off, we're shedding those old limiting beliefs, those conditioned thought patterns. And when we can't force this, like the peonies opening up, you can't force the hard shell on the peonies to be removed. Otherwise, the flower's not going to develop the way that it needs to. And that's the same with our healing journey. And if we try to rush it and speed up the process, that we're going to miss a lot of good experiences and a lot of the good pieces, all those little golden nuggets. So I would have to say probably relationships. There are some relationships that fall away, yes, but that is just because they're out of alignment for both parties. That doesn't make one better than the other. Not at all. It just means that they're out of alignment. So I'd have to say relationships, trying to force it, the healing process just doesn't work. And then when you heal this component, this issue, this topic today, let's say, for example, today, but then a month later, something comes up and it's brought back up. Well, that just means, yes, you did release that. And like, I thought I healed that. You did. You healed what your body was ready to heal at that time. But that experience runs deeper into your soul than you realize. So now we're ready to go deeper with that healing. So the one and done or a quick fix. This is not a quick fix. I'm like, folks, this is not a quick fix. Silent counseling, it is powerful and you can release a lot in a limited time, but it's not something that you just do one time and that's it. You have to be open-minded and remain open-hearted to see that growth and evolution is a continual progression.
When clients experience what they call setbacks, how do you help them understand what's actually happening?
Yes, clients are experiencing what they deem as setbacks. I love that. Thank you. First, I just have compassion and I understand and I have immense empathy and sympathy because I understand what that's like. But I let them know that it's just nothing they did wrong. First, I let them know they've done nothing wrong. Sometimes we're given tests, and not everybody believes this, and that's okay. But I do believe in my journey, we work on healing the areas that we're ready to heal. And then we get these little tests here and there to see how we're going to handle this situation a similar situation this time around than before we started healing. And so I let them know, was there something, how did that make you feel? So I turn it around to really focus on their feelings and what is brought up. What has that brought up for you now? And then we walk through that. And then honestly, I don't have to do a whole lot of talking in that instance, because then they are starting to recognize, oh yeah, you know what? Maybe I think I could have done this, or I see. And then, you know what? I did handle that right. So where they thought it was and sometimes that's all it is them letting them talk about it and then recognizing that it's not a setback, love. You did exactly what you were supposed to do at that exact time. And you have evolved. So it's also reflecting and looking back at how far you've come. So it's recognizing that and giving yourself that credit where credit is due, where your divine team is wanting you to see and commend yourself. Not in an arrogant way, but in a, hey, we love you. We see how far you've come, and we want you to recognize that too. So sometimes those tests are just also a test to see if we're going to recognize our self-worth and self-value.
You've described a shift from constant chaos into a more grounded, peaceful, and aligned way of being. For someone out there who's feeling dysregulated or overwhelmed right now, what are the first small shifts that tend to make the biggest difference?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. First, take a deep cleansing breath, and then exhale and allow your body to just relax. And I invite folks to self-reflect and to practice and find a way that feels good for them, to practice self-love, however that looks for them, forgiveness, if they're ready to be in that space. I'm not going to force, I will never tell someone, oh, you have to forgive, you have to do this, you have to love yourself. I mean, if they're not ready, it's not going to work for them. So the little things is self-reflection, giving themselves grace, and understanding that they're doing the best they can with what they've been given, and that everything is going to be, it's going to work out. It will work out. And this is just a season. It's just a phase, and it's real. Validate their emotions. Validate themselves. Stop trying to find validation from other people. If it didn't feel right the way that, let's say I responded in a certain way, if it didn't feel right and I'm going around asking and sharing that experience with everybody to get their opinion, when I know in my heart it just didn't feel right. But if I get mixed messages, it wasn't right for me. If someone may validate and say, yes, Jessica, you had every right to respond that way, but if it didn't feel right for me, that's my body's way of telling me that I didn't handle it correctly. So for others who are just starting, listen to your intuition, your gut. That's a gift. We're given that gift. And if you feel like something's off, listen to it. Something's off. Pay attention to your surroundings, numbers. If you're open, when we open your mind and be truly open with wanting to learn about who you are at a deeper level, that can be by like astrology. Some people don't believe in astrology, but astrology, human design, Bible courses, however, wherever it takes you, to learn more about yourself and reflect of why you respond the way that you respond. That by taking time to reflect and figure that out, that's going to start giving you, it's like Alice in Wonderland. You keep going down that rabbit hole, and it will lead you to the right areas that feel best for you. So I guess intuition and self-discovery love, self-love, and forgiveness.
So this is a perfect opportunity for us to move into our challenge of the week. For listeners who feel stuck in survival mode or they're overwhelmed overall, can you recommend one gentle practice, awareness, or permission you'd invite them to practice daily over the next week?
That is a beautiful question. Yes, I would like to challenge folks that if they go through an experience that triggers them, and however that trigger is, whether it's anger, frustration, fear, insecurities, I invite folks to take a pause and ask themselves, what was it about that experience that really bothered me? Was it their tone of voice? Was it the facial expressions? Was it the words that they used? Was it something else? Is it them as a person? Or is there something, how am I feeling when they did this or when they said that? So notice how I said when they did or said, but we're not blaming. So I invite folks to take a step back and instead of blaming and saying, well, I did this because they did that. No, this isn't a moment where I invite you to say, why did I respond that way? And then if you responded in a way that you feel could have been better, then go back and replay that. And in your mind, or even verbally in your own space, speak what you would have liked to have said it, how you would have liked the outcome to be, and then envision it, say the words, and find closure and release it and let it go.
And as we close, what do you most hope our listeners will understand about themselves, their nervous system, and their capacity to heal, even if they're still early in the journey and even if they're still struggling?
Yes, I hope that listeners will walk away feeling encouraged, empowered, more connected with their own self, and to give themselves that grace and support and love that they would give if someone were coming to them with that same problem, and take it little bits at a time, because you are exactly where you're at for all the right reasons. You're at the perfect place at the perfect time.
Jessica, thank you for this grounded, compassionate, and deeply honoring conversation. Thank you to everyone out there listening to this episode of NeuroAlchemy, where the nervous system, emotional energetics, and multidimensional healing meet. If today's episode resonated with you, I invite you to like, subscribe, and share it with somebody who may need to hear this message. You can continue to explore more episodes and resources at neurosynergyhealth.com. Until next time, take gentle care of your mind, your body, and your inner world. And I will include all of Jessica's contact information in the show notes as well. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you, Sarah. Take care.